Every single year it feels like the Halloween decorations come down and bam, suddenly it's all about Christmas music and winter
Oh,
lights.
absolutely. There's this huge cultural pull to just jump straight into December, Mariah Carey defrosting.
Exactly. But we end up skipping right over this really interesting American holiday that sits right in between Thanksgiving.
And we think we know it, right? Turkey, football, family. But the real story behind it. It's packed with, well, political moves, economic strategies, and a history that's quite different from the one we usually learn.
That's what this deep dive is all about. We want to pull out those surprising bits, the aha moments. We've got the sources that tell us not just when it is, but really why it is, and how it became this national thing, beyond the usual stuff.
Moving past the Rockwell painting, so to speak.
Okay, so let's get into it. Maybe start with the basics, the calendar stuff, before we hit the history.
Sounds good. Let's nail down the logistics first, because even just scheduling this day, well, that has its own surprising backstory we'll get to.
Right. So if you're planning ahead, 2025, it's Thursday, November 27th. And the rule is always the fourth Thursday in November every year.
Yep, fourth Thursday. And that specific timing has legal weight.
It means it's a federal holiday and a state holiday too, right?
Yeah,
Everywhere.
correct. All across the country. So think banks closed, government offices shut down, no mail. The whole official machinery kind of pauses for the day.
It's a proper national day off.
It really is. And culturally, well, it's the unofficial kickoff for the huge holiday shopping season.
Yeah, you've got the massive football games, amazing food everywhere, parades like the big one in Detroit. It's a cultural moment.
But here's a key point, something the sources highlight. That Friday after Thanksgiving, the one lots of people get off,
Making it a 4-day weekend, yeah.
that Friday is not actually an official holiday. Not federal, not state. The fact that so many places close or people take it off is more tradition, often tied to, well, retail rhythms. It's not mandated.
Ah, okay, so that 4-day feel is more custom than law. Interesting. So that's the picture now. Big holiday food, family, shopping launch. But the real question is, how did this specific Thursday become the day? What were the forces, like politically and economically, that locked it in?
That takes us back, way back, actually. To understand today, you have to look at the documents, the history. The earliest precedent, the first presidential nod, was George Washington.
Washington, okay?
Yeah, he issued a Thanksgiving proclamation way back in 1789. Set a kind of template.
But it wasn't an annual thing then. Like, did Jefferson and Adams keep it going?
No, that's the thing. They didn't really. Washington's successors kind of let it slide. So for decades, there wasn't this guaranteed National Thanksgiving Day.
Which makes its official arrival later.
Oh,
Well, it sounds much more significant, more deliberate.
exactly. It wasn't until 1863, right in the thick of the Civil War, that Abraham Lincoln stepped in and declared it a permanent national holiday.
1863, middle of the Civil War. That feels loaded. It wasn't just, hey, let's all be thankful, was it? What do the sources say Lincoln was really aiming for?
Well, the sources are pretty clear on this. Lincoln's move was very much a calculated political act. Historians see it as a deliberate attempt to foster reconciliation.
Reconciliation during the Civil War.
Precisely. Think about it. 1863, the country is tearing itself apart. By creating this shared national day of thanks, invoking Washington's precedent, Lincoln was trying to, symbolically pull the nation back together, create a sense of unity.
Wow. So a holiday we associate with comfort and togetherness was actually made official during the nation's bloodiest conflict as a tool for unity.
It's powerful context, isn't it? It was a strategic effort to reinforce the idea of one America, even while states were literally fighting against that very concept. Politics and culture deeply intertwined.
Okay, so Lincoln establishes it nationally in 1863, aiming for unity. But the date itself, that wasn't quite settled yet, was it? I thought that was another shift later.
You're right. Originally, under Lincoln's proclamation, following Washington's lead, it was set for the last Thursday in November.
The last Thursday. Okay, not necessarily the 4th.
Exactly. Sometimes the last Thursday is the 4th, but sometimes November has 5 Thursdays. And that slight difference led to another major government intervention, this time driven purely by, well, money.
Money. How so?
This brings us to 1939, the Great Depression. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt steps in and makes a change. He officially moves Thanksgiving to the 4th Thursday of November.
So he locks it into the 4th Thursday. Why? What difference did that make during the Depression?
It was all about Christmas shopping. The thinking, explicitly stated at the time and backed up by the sources, was retail sales.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Absolutely. Roosevelt and the retailers who lobbied him believed that moving Thanksgiving just a week earlier in those years, with 5 Thursdays, would extend the crucial Christmas shopping season, give people more time to spend money.
They needed every possible boost back then, I suppose?
They really did. It was seen as a potential economic stimulus. But it caused quite a fuss.
A fuss. Well,
Now, not everyone liked the change. Many states initially refused to move the date. So, for a couple of years, 1939, 1940, some states celebrated on the fourth Thursday, others on the last. People called it Franksgiving.
Franksgiving. That's amazing. So you had two different Thanksgivings depending on where you lived?
For a couple of years, yes. It was pretty chaotic. That's a fascinating example of the government trying to tweak culture for economic goals. Eventually, Congress had to step in.
To fix Franksgiving.
Basically, yeah. In 1941, Congress passed a resolution, which Roosevelt signed, officially codifying Thanksgiving as the fourth Thursday of November, permanently, mostly to end the confusion.
So the date we celebrate now, the timing, the long weekend tradition it enables, the start of the shopping, it's a direct result of Civil War politics and Great Depression economics. That's
Right.
quite a history.
It really is.
So, if the holidays' timing and national status are rooted in war and economics, what does that do to the story we all learned in school? You know, the Pilgrims and the Native Americans in 1621, the first Thanksgiving.
Ah, yes. The 1621 story. This is where applying that critical lens we talked about becomes really important. The traditional narrative, that's often polished smooth, it removes the rough edges.
The story goes 1621 Plymouth Colony. The Pilgrims, after a tough year but a decent harvest, invite the local Wampanoag tribe over for a peaceful feast, sharing food, giving thanks together, harmony.
And look, a meal did happen. That part seems historically accurate. But the sources we have suggest the context and the way it happened are, let's say, significantly different from that peaceful, pre-planned potluck image.
Different how? You mean the whole invitation part might be wrong?
Well, the historical reporting suggests it's not completely accurate, and its significance is often overstated. It wasn't like the Pilgrims sent out engraved invitations.
Okay. So what did happen, according to these accounts?
The colonists were celebrating their harvest, yes. But their celebration got loud. Rowdy, even. They were firing their guns into the air. Military exercises, part of their celebration style.
Firing guns. Okay, I can see how that might be misinterpreted.
Exactly. Imagine you're the Wampanoag nearby. You hear sustained gunfire coming from the colonist settlement. What do you think?
Trouble. Maybe they're being attacked. Or maybe they're planning an attack. Not exactly party time.
Precisely. The Wampanoag warriors didn't hear party poppers. They heard potential violence. So their reaction, quite rationally, was to investigate. They gathered, likely prepared for conflict if necessary, and went to see what the commotion was about.
So they showed up potentially expecting a fight, not a feast.
The account suggests their arrival was driven by concern and the need to assess a potential threat. It wasn't a response to a friendly dinner invitation. It was strategic reconnaissance.
Wow. And they joined the feast only after they realized it wasn't hostile.
It seems that once they arrived and saw it was a harvest celebration, however noisy, and not an attack, the situation de-escalated, and yes, some sharing of food occurred over several days. But it started from a place of potential conflict and misunderstanding, not prearranged harmony.
That completely changes the dynamic, from a symbol of peace to, well, a situation that luckily didn't turn violent.
It really underscores the difference between a comforting national myth and the messier, more complex historical reality. And it highlights why looking at events from multiple perspectives, especially the indigenous perspective here, is so crucial.
Okay, so let's recap the big surprises for everyone listening. The Thanksgiving date we know, that fourth Thursday, it's partly because FDR wanted to boost Christmas shopping during the Depression.
Yep, and its status as a national holiday. That was solidified by Lincoln during the Civil War as a strategy, really, for national unity.
And the iconic 1621 event, it wasn't this cozy planned dinner party. It was more like the Wampanoag investigating loud gunfire, fearing conflict, and only then joining in once they realized it was just a noisy celebration.
That's the picture the deeper sources paint. It connects back to you, the listener, by showing how even our most cherished traditions often have these hidden layers: politics, economics, contested stories right beneath the surface.
The narrative we get is often the simplest one, maybe the one that makes us feel best, not necessarily the full story.
Absolutely.
Which kind of leads to a final thought for you to chew on, maybe along with your turkey. Given that this holiday's timing was literally adjusted for retail, and it was formalized out of political need during wartime, what other traditions or holidays that we celebrate today, maybe thinking they're purely about sentiment or history, What else might actually be driven by economic cycles or political goals we don't even notice?
What unseen forces might be shaping the celebrations you take part in? Something to think about.